Hello and welcome. I'm SAG-AFTRA Executive Vice President Ben Whitehair. Thank you all for joining us for this SAG-AFTRA live stream on YouTube. To stay informed about all of our live stream and video events, we invite you to subscribe to this channel. Go ahead and do that right now. Just click the subscribe button. We'll be pausing throughout as we have a pair of interpreters, Courtney Nimmersham and Selena Flowers, with us here today to do American Sign Language interpretation. Courtney and Selena will be switching off periodically throughout today's discussion. Today, we present the President's Task Force on Education, Outreach, and Engagement live stream 5678, Top Questions About Dancer Contracts. This presentation was created by popular demand and answers the frequently asked questions that you, our dancer members, have about the contracts you work under. We want to make sure that when you're on a job doing the work you're highly trained for, you understand the terms of your employment, the safety measures that are in place, and who to call with questions. Speaking of questions, if you have any questions that you would like to direct to today's guest, please just email them to pteoe@sagaftra.org. That's pteoe@sagaftra.org. As a reminder, today's program is being recorded and you can watch the replay right here on SAG-AFTRA's YouTube channel, along with some more great content. Today's presenter is SAG-AFTRA Senior Business Representative, Janée Lynch. Janée joined SAG-AFTRA's music department as a business rep in 2017. She is a passionate advocate for performers, focusing on contract education and enforcement for singers and dancers for TV, film, new media, and music video contracts. Janée is also a staff liaison for SAG-AFTRA's Singers and Dancers Committee, works on numerous events and educational forums for members. She's a contributor to our negotiation teams, focusing on singer and dancer contract provisions. And in a previous life, before her time here with us as SAG-AFTRA staff, Janée was a performer, as well as an agent for dancers, singers, and actors. So she was a dancer, performer, and brings not just her many years of knowledge with our contracts, but deeply understands the dancer community. And I am so excited to have her here with us today. Hello, Janée. Thank you for joining. Shall I count you in? A 5, 6, a 5, 6. I'm just kidding. Take it away, Janée. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Ben, for that amazing introduction. Hi, everyone. As Ben stated, my name is Janée Lynch, and I am the Senior Business Rep in the Music Department at SAG-AFTRA, who handles contract education and enforcement for dancers and singers for TV, film, and new media and music videos for all performers. I'm really excited today to present this presentation to you all so you have a better understanding of the top questions that we get from our members and performers as it relates to dancer contracts. So we have a great slideshow presentation, and then afterwards we'll have some Q&A with Ben. So the top questions about dancer contracts. Next slide, please. So the first question that we get all the time is, are dancers considered background, special ability, or principal performers? Next slide. The answer to that is dancers are principal performers under all of our agreements. So you should never be hired as background or background special ability. The reason being is dancers have certain provisions under all of our agreements that have special terms just for them, such as hazard pay, what type of floor that they can dance on, what's a resilient floor, things of that nature. And background special ability do not have that language for dancers. So anytime that you are working under a choreographer, or if you're actually creating the choreography yourself per production's request, you are a principal performer covered under dancer contracts. Next slide. So what contracts cover dancers? This is a question that we get all of the time. Next slide. So dancers are covered under the following contracts: the commercials contract, the corporate educational contract, interactive, music videos, network code, new media, theatrical, and television. Each of these contracts do have specific terms and provisions as it relates to dancers, and not all of the contracts are created equal. So when we say that, it just means that maybe some of the rates that apply to dancers in some contracts may not apply to dancers in another, and they have different rates or different terms and provisions, or even just different wordings in the contracts as it relates to dancers. Next slide. So how do you determine what contract and rate a production is covered under? This is one of the most important questions that we get all the time. Next slide. So when you get hired for a job, if you're getting hired through your agent or directly through production or casting director, they should actually notify you what job this is covered under. And you should actually be notified ahead of time, at time of audition or time of booking, whichever happens first, of what contract you're covered under SAG-AFTRA agreement. If you're still unsure what applies, you can contact the music department and we can verify if the production is covered, what contract it's covered under, and what are the applicable rates and terms and provisions that apply to that production. Next slide. What is the difference between the TV agreement and the network code agreement? This is an important question that all of our dance members should know. Next slide. So the TV agreement is primetime dramatic scripted. So that's programs from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. On broadcast television. And examples of this would be Grey's Anatomy, Law and Order SVU, NCIS, Home Economics, The Goldbergs, 911, and Riverdale. Those are specific to the TV agreement. Now, our network code agreement is a little bit different. This is non-dramatic programming, and this happens throughout the day and through primetime and late night. So good examples of the network code agreement would be Good Morning America, The Kelly Clarkson Show, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Dancing with the Stars, the Oscars, the Grammys, Billboard Music Awards. So network code covers a huge genre of television. It is morning shows, it is talk shows, it is late night shows, it's variety shows, and it's award shows. Next slide. So what department or departments should you call to get the answers to your dancer questions? Next slide. So to get your answers to dancer-specific questions for TV, theatrical, new media, music video, and interactive, you can call the music department at 353-549-6864. And for commercials and corporate educational questions, you can call their department and the LA office at 323-549-6858, and the New York office at 212-827-1454. So the music department is a specific department that handles dancers specifically. The commercials department handles all of their performers covered under their contract. So that's why there is 2 separate numbers to call. Specifically for dancers, the music department handles the bulk of the contracts, as you'll see on the slide. And then the commercials department handles the commercials and corporate educational questions for dancers. Next slide. So I actually believe this is the last slide. So we're going to go ahead and kick it back to Ben for a quick Q&A.
Fantastic. Thank you for that overview. Okay, have a few questions that I know come up a lot in the dancer community. And again, for anybody watching live, you can email pteoe@sagaftra.org if you have other questions. So Janée, if a dancer works on a tour and the tour footage of a performance is used in a music video, how is that compensated?
So you want to give us a call because there's a couple different things. So the tour would actually have to be covered under a SAG-AFTRA agreement for that footage to even be considered covered under a music video. Typically, tour footage isn't covered under the music video agreement, but if it happens that the tour is covered under our new media agreement, such as for Netflix or Hulu, any type of streaming platform, there may be reuse provisions in that contract that would apply to payment under a music video agreement.
Got it. So give the union a call in that circumstance to suss out the specific details.
Absolutely.
Talking about safety, are the safety standards consistent across the different contracts? Concrete is concrete that you'd be dancing on, whether it's a commercial or in a music video.
So yes and no. So the yes is that we do have hazard provisions under all of our agreements that cover dancers. The no question is some of that language is different in all of our contracts. So while concrete is universal under all of our contracts as dancer hazard, some of our contracts have language such as resilient floor, meaning a dancer should not be required to dance on a non-resilient floor, which would be concrete, grass, stony sidewalks, things of that nature. But some of our contracts don't have the resilient language. So it's just straight hazard as to what we consider a hazardous condition.
Got it. So what about if I'm hired as background to dance, like I'm at a club scene behind the principal performers? Do I get paid at a dancer rate instead of the background rate since I'm professionally trained?
So the answer to that question is no, unless there's a choreographer present who is giving you directive or teaching you choreography that they would like you to perform behind the principals in the scene in the club.
Got it. Got it. So what do I do if I'm on set and I get asked to do something that seems outside of what was originally choreographed, or if something doesn't feel safe?
So the first thing that you should do is you should have a conversation with the choreographer. We know that sometimes that's a difficult discussion to have, but choreographers are there to protect dancers on set. So they should make production aware that if something is unsafe for the performers, to try to change the treatment and the creative of the scene to make it more safe, or talk about different alternatives that they can provide to adjust whatever the hazard is. If the hazard can't not be avoided, then hazard pay would be definitely warranted. So that's when we say, give us a call or shoot us an email during a break so we can discuss the matter. And then we can send production or labor relations a quick little email or phone call to discuss the hazard and make them aware that we would be enforcing hazard payment for that specific hazardous condition on the production.
Got it. One of the things that I invite all of our members, whether you're a dancer, actor, performer, whatever that is to practice that, like you said, Janée, challenging sometimes conversation, but to be able to speak up and say, hey, especially if you don't feel safe, something seems not right, speak up. The union staff is here to support us, but they can only support us if they know what's going on. And any reporting can also always be done anonymously if you're actually reporting something. What Janée, you were saying of, talking to the choreographer obviously is falls in a slightly different bucket there. But yes, an invitation to anyone, if you're on set at a performance and there's an issue, being willing to stand up and knowing that you have the backing of the full weight of the union behind you.
Yes, that's so important, Ben, especially because our performers are our eyes and ears on these sets. We do have field representatives that are able to make it out to sets and do a rotation, but because we have so many productions working on any given day and any given time, any issues, you should definitely let us know when they're happening so we can work at our very best to try to get that rectified before it would have to be going into the claim process. Great.
If the dance surface is slippery or shoes provided by costuming don't have adequate grip for the dance service, what should dancers do?
So the first thing that you should do is you should alert the choreographer and wardrobe that you need better grips for your shoes. And if there's a better alternative, if you brought your shoes as well that you feel more safe in dancing in, please alert them of that, because that is an alternative for you, but it also does give you a little bit of a bump for using your own shoes. And then you should ask to have several rehearsals and practices in the slippery surfaces. And if something is too slippery, you let them know, hey, it's not going to work, adjust it. And then also let us know too, so we can report it to production or labor relations, have the conversation about the slippery surface and see what we can do to either change that or make it more safe for the performers.
Got it. Okay, so dancers are principal performers under the contracts, including cheerleaders under dancer provisions unless otherwise negotiated as a stunt performer. At what time would a dance/cheerleading role need to be negotiated as a stunt performer contract? So for instance, someone's had 2 dance contracts as a cheerleader that required stunt work as a flyer. When is there simply a stunt adjustment, and when is there a need for a stunt performer contract?
So the performer can negotiate better terms and conditions for themselves. So typically the choreographers are covered under the dance contract because they are taught choreography. So that would fall under dancer provisions. And then we have hazard language in relation to stunts, which does give a performer who is doing a stunt hazard pay. With that being said, if the stunt is super difficult or has additional elements such as, co-ed stunting, building large pyramids where they connect with each other, you would maybe want to negotiate a stunt bump for that. So that is a conversation you would have with the choreographer and with production, and to negotiate getting a stunt bump for the additional work that's being done for the hazards of what that stunt may be.
Great. Have a wonderful question from somebody watching. As a dancer, what makes you SAG-AFTRA eligible?
So you would have to work one SAG-AFTRA job as a dancer, which is a principal performer, and that gives you what's called a Taft-Hartley. That Taft-Hartley makes you eligible to join, and that gives you 30 days to work as many union jobs before you become a must join. Once you become a must join, that next union job that you book, you will have to join to be a member in order to do that production.
So similar to actor performers in the sense of booking that one principal contract on one of the contracts that allows for the Taft-Hartley that then makes you eligible.
Absolutely. The same exact terms and provisions.
Got it. Okay. Question here. Am I allowed to say no if a hazard comes up that I don't want to do? Will I get into trouble with production?
Yes. At any time, your safety is the most important thing, as well as the safety of those around you. If you do not feel comfortable doing the hazard, you can definitely say no. You can give me a call and report it, and we'll have a discussion, and we will definitely back you up with a conversation with production and labor relations and letting them know that the performer does not feel comfortable doing the hazard in which it is set up to do. Safety is our number one priority for our performers. And so if you don't feel safe, you do not have to do it.
Really, really good to know. Great question. Thank you. Okay, next question. If I'm being asked to sign a background voucher for a day of dance work that hasn't yet been upgraded, what should I do?
Well, first and foremost, you should not be working as background as a professional dancer if it is professional dancer work, just leading back to an earlier question that we discussed. So if you are under the learning choreography or creating choreography per the production request, you should automatically be under a dancer contract. Now, if for some reason you were hired specifically as background and they loved what you were doing and then you're being upgraded, you should still sign your background voucher and you should report it to the union immediately. So that way we can alert production that that you've got an upgrade and you need the appropriate contract. While you're on set as well too, you can also respond to them and let them know, hey, I got upgraded, so I'll need that principal contract. And once again, if they don't give it to you, just let us know and we can make sure that production gives you that agreement. So that way you get your correct pay when the time of payment is due and we don't have to file a claim to get that upgrade.
I'm sensing a theme of reaching out to make sure that staff can back you up and make sure you're getting treated fairly and compensated appropriately.
Absolutely. Our job is enforcement as much as it is education. And sometimes it just takes a conversation to educate the production to make sure that they fully understand the scope of the work that's being done and how that's covered.
Love all the questions that are coming in here. Thank you all for sending them in. Next up, question is, and background. The common practice in the industry is to hire professional dancers under background contracts with or without a special abilities adjustment. Can you please talk to this in some detail and give us your assessment of how realistic it is to get these gray areas eliminated and draw the line across the board to hire dancers as principals only?
Right. So it is our full enforcement that dancers are principal performers under our agreements as it pertains to the type of work that you're doing. So the example of just dancing in the background as a club dancer wouldn't warrant that principal performer contract just because you're a trained professional dancer. But doing actual physical dance vocabulary choreographed is what is going to get you that dancer contract. So it takes a village. It takes the whole community. It takes you as performers for standing up for yourselves and saying, this is not background work. This is not background special ability work. I am, what you're asking me to do is principal work, and it falls under dancer provisions. And then it also takes you contacting us as well. The biggest thing to put out there to the dance community is the union doesn't know it's happening unless you report it. So if there's a known issue in specific locals or different regions of where there's a common practice of hiring dancers to do dance work under background contracts, we should know. So that way we can get out to those casting directors, the productions, the labor relations, and educate them on what constitutes a dancer contract, what constitutes a background or a background special ability contract, and that they should not be hiring dancers to do choreographed work or to choreograph their own work under background or background special ability agreements.
So choreography certainly is the line in the sand in a lot of instances.
Correct. Now, just to keep in mind, what we consider dancing under background and background special ability is technically social dancing. So that would be something you would see like in a wedding scene, the electric slide, the example of the club dancing, you're just in the background having fun club dancing. Those are things that would be considered a background special ability contract and not a anything that requires training. So that's the other key too. So anything that required any type of training to learn how to do that skill, which puts you in that professional dancer category, is the difference between what we consider background special ability, which is the social dancing, and what is true professional dancer work in a production.
So if I could do the dancing, it's probably special ability. If I can't do it, then that probably means we need some professionals up in here because I can pretty much only do the funky chicken.
Yeah, absolutely. But I have faith in you, Ben, that you can hang. You can hang for sure.
Okay, so question is, what should we do if there's no SAG-AFTRA rep on set, but we think there should be one there?
Right. So generally, as I stated, is we have tons of productions working on any given day at any given time. And we only have so many field representatives that can sit and get to those sets in a rotation during their weekly rotations. So if you definitely feel that there's some areas of concern, you can call the music department and we can work with our field rep department to get a rep down on set. And then oftentimes too, when we're not in COVID, sometimes I can actually make it down to set as well and be able to have the conversation one-on-one with the dancers, see what's going on, and direct those questions with the producers myself. But other than that, because we're in COVID times and I'm still remote in my house, that means just getting a field rep out there to be able to handle all the concerns that you have while on set.
Got it. Got it. How can we make sure dancers are getting paid in the proper time frame? This person says that the productions are never penalized for this and dancers are still getting paid very late and agents don't help. So how can we be protected through the union for this? Basically, if people are not getting paid on time, what do they do?
Right, absolutely. So you need to call the union. You don't always have to go through your agent. You are a member, and so you can contact the union directly and we can handle those concerns for you. Under each of our contracts, there is different terms and provisions of how you need to be paid and what that time frame is. So for example, under our TV agreement, it's 5 business days. Under the music video agreement, it's 30 calendar days. So each one differs. So if you're not getting your payment on time, definitely give us a call. And there actually is penalties. So there's a penalty that we charge the production on a per day basis, which is actually capped at so many days. And that is due directly to the performer. So once we collect that fee, when we know your payment is late, or somehow your payment's lost in the mail, we can address that directly and we can get those payments to you for your time for having to wait for the payment. But we also do have stern conversations with productions when we do find out that there is a late payment issue that's consistent on the production. So we do put the gauntlet down on them and really enforce that they need to stick to the payment turnaround, or else we're going to continue to file claims and grievances on late penalty fees that are fees that are due to the performer for late payment.
So this sounds like another one of those instances that falls under, if SAG-AFTRA knows about it, they can do something about it and make sure that they're enforcing it. Because whoever wrote in the question, it's so frustrating when you're not getting paid on time. I really feel that. So please report it. Let the union know, because they can and will enforce that. And if it's happening consistently and people are reporting it, and we see the union sees a pattern of behavior, then they can, lay the hammer down even harder.
Absolutely.
Okay, couple final questions. So appreciate everybody writing in. These are great. SAG-AFTRA dance auditions are supposed to be an hour, but rarely are. How can we urge efficiency and also allow the choreographer to get to see what they need? How do we file a claim and still remain anonymous?
Right. So the great things about auditions is it's not just one person in the room, not just two people in the room. It affects a multitude of dancers. We try to have conversations all the time in what we call a pre-production basis. So if we know the production is hiring dancers and we know who the choreographer is, we try to have a conversation with them and let them know the rules of an audition. And so we encourage them to have audition times based off of maybe dancer type, based off of agency, whatever it is, to be able to, one, decrease the amount of dancers in the room for COVID safety. And then also two, to eliminate auditions going over an hour. If the audition is exceeding an hour, there is audition payment terms that are due to the performers. And when we know about it, we can file what's called a blanket claim. So that keeps all performers anonymous. It makes production have to actually look at the call sheets and determine what dancers signed in and what dancers signed out at what times and what that is due. So we would never actually identify any performers at that point in time from us saying, hey, so-and-so called and reported this. It's an anonymous claim that gets filed on behalf of all performers who are affected in that circumstance.
The other thing I would add as a member is what I have seen happen on various productions as well is a member calls in, says, hey, I'm not even necessarily asking that anything be done, but I want to report that whatever possible violation is happening, and I want to be anonymous. And what you may not know is there might be 2, 3, 4, 7 other performers who've said the same thing. And then staff has that information to say, hey, clearly there's an issue here. I'm not saying it takes that many people reporting for something to be done, but that's often what has happened in cases like that. So again, urging everybody to report it. Let staff know, hey, I want to make sure this is anonymous, but here's what's going on.
And to that point, Ben, you brought up something that is really important, that several people might be reporting, but also keeping the fact that if multiple people are talking about it, someone needs to report it, right? So don't just expect that somebody else is going to report it because you guys are having conversations in the moment. If we get 5, 10, 15, 20 calls, that's amazing. That means everybody is on top of making sure that you guys are all protected on set and we actually know what is happening. So that's the key.
So even if a group of dancers on set are having a challenge, you would encourage as many as possible to call in individually to report it.
Absolutely. You shouldn't have the expectation that somebody else is going to call for you. You should always be standing up for yourself and making sure that you call and you report the situation. Great.
Okay, last couple questions. If you are working a live performance that's on a streaming platform, Amazon Prime, Netflix, etc., are you eligible for residuals?
So yes, but it all depends on the contract in which it's signed to. New media residuals work a little bit differently than TV or network code residuals. So if you have residuals questions in regards to the production, you can call into us. And if it is something that is a specific contract that needs a little bit more attention, we can get you over to our residual claims department and they can give you the breakdown of what residuals you will receive as far as percentage base and when those residuals would actually be due and kick in for payment.
Understood. Okay, last question. If I have been taught choreography as a background performer and was only paid $182 for 8 base fee, how can I follow up with a claim?
So you can contact myself at the music department and we'll send you a claim form and we'll get that claim over to production and let them know that you should have been upgraded on set. And when you give us that claim information back in the claim form, just be as specific as you can. So who taught you the choreography, who gave you the upgrade? So that way we can be as detailed as possible in our claim notification to production or labor relations so we can get a easier and faster resolve for you.
Excellent. Excellent. Janée, thank you so much for answering all of these questions. Thank you, everybody, truly for writing in with these questions. Super helpful to hear directly from the community what you're facing, what challenges you're having. And so thank you for your participation. Janée, that was a fantastic presentation, answering all the member questions that came in. I know for me, it was very helpful and clarified so many of the questions that I know my friends in the dancer community ask again and again. On behalf of the team here at SAG-AFTRA, we would like to thank everyone for watching, taking the time out to dance with us here on this presentation. A special thanks to each of you who've been tuning in each week for our President's Task Force on Education, Outreach, and Engagement live streams. If you have ideas for topics you would like to see us cover, shoot us an email, pteoe@sagaftra.org. And if you haven't already, while you're already here, go ahead and subscribe to SAG-AFTRA's YouTube channel to get updates on the great content that we're posting. We will see you next time. Thank you so much and have a great day.